I have a bit of a shorter video for you today. I want to talk about a DeFi app that I was trying to reverse engineer. Now, reverse engineer is probably overselling it, but I wanted to dig into the details of this app in order to understand whether the pricing was correct. And I'll show you what I mean whenever I dive into the app as to what I mean by pricing. So I'm looking at an app called Rysk Finance. It's a fairly new project. I joined the Telegram and I've been looking at their website and I've been trying to figure out how things work. So they offer covered calls, which is something which is a bit like an option, but there's also some collateral behind it. So you have to lock up some tokens, which is your collateral. Let's say it's some ETH. And then you have basically a range of strike prices, much like options, and you choose the strike price that you think is the most attractive for your risk profile and whatever else your goals, right? So each strike price has a different APR associated with it. The higher the strike price, the smaller the APR because you're taking on less risk. And I'm saying to myself, okay, this is interesting. So I can get paid out if the price goes up, or I get my tokens back if the price doesn't hit the strike price. So the amount of risk feels somewhat low, obviously with some caveats. If the price is low, if it doesn't meet the strike price, then I get my tokens back, but I also get to keep the upfront payment. So there's an upfront payment that they make to you whenever you lock up your tokens, and it's because you're locking up your tokens, which is why you get the payment. On the other hand, if it goes above the strike price, then you get a dollar value essentially. This is stablecoins USDT, and you get that back to the value of your tokens at the time of expiry and according to the price. And I'm saying to myself when I'm trying to work this out, I'm saying, okay, how do I know if these percentages are good? How do I know if they are fair valued? Am I getting generously compensated? Is this a big number? It sounds like it. 51% sounds like a big number. Or is it potentially that they are underpriced? And so the fact that there's options behind this, that's kind of part of the instrument, shall we say, then I know that you can price options using Black-Scholes. And that was kind of my first line of inquiry. I went to ChatGPT and I was saying, okay, let's talk about how to price this. I should also point out here that this is essentially a European style option. You can see an expiry date up here, which is 29 days into the future whenever I took this image, and that's August 29th. So let's jump into ChatGPT, or at least part of it. I asked it to give me a value for the APR as according to Black-Scholes, if possible, and it did. There's obviously a whole bunch of values here, including like the strike price, which is just an example, the current spot price, time until expiry, risk-free rate, which is essentially can be like the treasuries return from US treasuries, which is seen as risk-free. It's just part of the nomenclature of finance. Don't worry too much about what risk-free actually means. Is it free of risk, etc.? Don't worry, it's just something which is commonly done. And then the implied volatility, which you can get, say, from Deribit. And then you can start to calculate the numbers, as you can see here, Black-Scholes, D1, D2, and then you can calculate a call price based upon the formulas and the numbers. And then there's the premium that you would get, and you can then convert that into an APR. You would then annualize that, which is what we see here in the red box. And so the annualized value, as according to Black-Scholes, is 40.5%. And in the Rysk app, they have 41.67. So it's actually slightly better than calculated from theory. So in this case, you could say that maybe that is a good price. Now, Black-Scholes is not perfect. The volatility is assumed to be static, which we know is not necessarily true in the real world. So I always figure that there's a chance that these are being underpriced. Now, it's not an option, but rather a covered call, so the risk is not going to be exactly the same. You have to lock up collateral, which you could argue that there's less risk than an option, although there might be some more technical risk in terms of the fact that this is DeFi things may not work as well as they should, and the fact that you have to lock up collateral, there's maybe a chance that there's a bug in the protocol or whatever. However, let's just take this as it is. This is the start of us trying to reverse engineer and trying to work out whether the pricing is correct or not, or good enough, should we say, not necessarily correct. And so the idea that I had was, why not build some sort of dashboard? We could make a simple web app. I could use AI to write the code for me. And whenever I start off these sort of projects, I like to create a spec document and an implementation document. The spec basically says what it is, and then the implementation says how to do it. So these are things I created inside ChatGPT. I get it in Markdown. It produces the Markdown, and then I can copy and paste it into files, and then I can start working in an IDE or whatever. Whenever I started this project, I thought it would be fun to record it. And I thought it'd be fun to record me using the tools, not live as such, not live streaming, but certainly to just record myself as I build the product, and I could try to talk about the product as I build it. And I was hoping that I would get something built as I did it. I thought, okay, let's try Gemini CLI. I get 50 free credits every day, or everyone does. So I thought, okay, let's see what we can build with the free credits. However, the progress on the first day wasn't a lot, so that's a little bit disheartening. But then I thought, okay, maybe I could do a little bit more on day 2 or day 3. However, Gemini decided to delete my documents, and while I could recreate those from ChatGPT, which was storing them, it is a little bit of a pain. One of the documents didn't really have the best formatting, and so it meant there was a bit of extra work that I had to do in order to get the document just right. Obviously that's a pain, and I decided, okay, that's just not really worth it. It was a nice idea, but given that progress was slow, given that the documents are deleted, and then the extra thing which really kind of bothers me about these CLI tools is that it's just so cramped. Looking at the commands and the suggested modifications inside a tiny command line, I much prefer working with IDEs. So that's what I did. As many of you might well know, if you have some sort of programmer background, you probably know this better than I do. There's 2 main IDEs that people like to work with. One is Cursor, there is Windsurf. I should say these are the AI assisted IDEs. You can use VS Code, which these 2 projects are forked from. VS Code is from Microsoft and the original in that sense. A lot of people used VS Code. I was using Cursor until quite recently. They had an issue with pricing and then how they communicated that pricing, which bothered me, and so I switched to Windsurf. Windsurf is a little bit nicer on the eyes. It's also slightly cheaper, although not by much. However, the pricing just feels much clearer. You get so many requests per month, which is what Cursor used to have, but then they changed it, and now it's just been a complete mess, and it didn't really feel like they communicated that well to us. And so I decided, okay, well, I don't want to burn through all of my credits within 2 weeks, which is what I did with Cursor, and then basically have no way to use the product because the free mode that they have inside Cursor is terrible. You just can't do much with it, and that's why I switched to Windsurf, which has been more upfront about that, and the pricing is clearer. You can buy top-up credits, which is great, so I don't get stuck. I can just keep going. So what did I do? I actually managed to build an app. The app works. You kind of got a hint of that in the opening slide. If it means anything to you, then you'll see on the screen here, you'll see the tech stack. So it is a nice front end created with React. The back end is Nodes.js. And then the data is coming from the Rysk Finance website and from CoinGecko API. CoinGecko is just for the live prices, so the Ether, the Bitcoin live price. Now, one of the things is that I couldn't quite figure out the WebSocket API for Rysk. They apparently have it. I couldn't figure it out while working with AI. And so I ended up scraping the website. It's a little bit clunky. It uses a Node.js package called Puppeteer, which works. It works well. It's obviously a messy way to do it. It would be much better just to have an API. However, we got data out and it works. It's maybe a little bit janky, but I'm still kind of glad that I got something to work, and this is what it is. The code is on GitHub, so you could download it if you wanted to and have a look at it. I can't promise that the code is good, but it was a fun project to do. It's just unfortunate that I couldn't quite show you my entire process, although I've kind of described to you the process that I used to analyze this particular product, and then how to build an app on the back of it in order to kind of show me the analysis in semi-real time. So here in the app, you can see the assets, so BTC and ETH. There's a few more. There's Hype and there's Pump, which are in the app, but they're not working quite perfectly. The premium is the amount of dollars that you get paid up front, so that's yours to keep regardless of whether the price goes up or down. This is yours to keep. There is the APR, which comes from Rysk, so that's scraped from the Rysk website. And then there's the theoretical APR as calculated by Black-Scholes. And then the difference here, which is this delta excess. So the green means that the APR is better than the theoretical APR, and therefore it's better priced, and perhaps it could be that it's well priced, or that it's good. I don't want to say it without further analysis. This was just a quick app just to get some numbers and just to show you how it looks. Down here for ETH, you can see that the excess is negative, which means that they're possibly underpaying you for the risk that you're taking. And if you look at the other ones, it's slightly below, basically on par, and then slightly above. So I would say that's less good. That's my first feeling. That's my first intuition. I could be wrong. It could be that this is actually fine for covered call pricing. I don't really know. Anyway, that's pretty much all I wanted to say. This is obviously a shorter video, and hopefully you enjoyed that, and maybe we'll see some more of these sort of projects in later videos. Thanks for watching.